Bobby, we're at 4.5 minutes.
4.5?
Men in Black was a great movie. Remember the dark glasses, the black suits, the silver suitcases, and the always serious faces of the men who habitually stormed into people's houses with mind-whipping gadgets unannounced, right? To be honest, this sci-fi comedy was not just a blockbuster, but a phenomenon. Everything about this was mind-blowing and amazing. However, behind the flashy sunglasses, weird-looking aliens, and some unforgettable movie scenes lies a vault of secrets that even Agent K would never spill. From unexpected casting choices to crazy behind-the-scene moments, get ready to have your memory erased as we dive into 20 weird facts you didn't know about the movie. Number 20. Real government agents visited the set. Men in Black, MIB, was filmed in the year 1996 and released in 1997, directed by Barry Sonnenfeld, who probably didn't sign up for a side of paranoia with his science fiction comedy. As we all know, the movie was all aliens, mind-wiping and talking pugs until things got real. Imagine real government agents dropping by the set for a surprise peek. No, this wasn't method acting. Instead of asking for food, drinks, autographs, or even a selfie with some of the famous crew members, these guys just walked around with that "we know everything" vibe and disappeared, like your memory after a neuralizer. People on set said they never saw credentials. One crew member swore he made eye contact with an agent and immediately forgot what year it was. Another swore his sandwich tasted like surveillance after one of them walked by. But nobody could explain why they were there and what they were looking for. Spielberg didn't call them. Tommy Lee Jones didn't recognize them. Will Smith said that if they were casting agents, they needed acting lessons, and even the pug growled. The whole visit was so mysterious that cast members joked the agents were there to make sure the movie didn't accidentally spill too much truth. If the agents tried to be subtle, they failed harder than Edgar trying to wear human skin. Next, number 19. Will Smith almost said no. Now that's a shocker, am I right? According to an anonymous source, before Will Smith was Agent J, he almost became the guy who turned down a global phenomenon. Let's go down memory lane, shall we? In the mid-90s, Big Willie was not thrilled about making another alien movie after crushing it on Independence Day. His reasoning? Too much space, not enough variety. When director Barry Sonnenfeld offered him the role, Smith gave it a firm maybe with a side eye. He was ready to pass until his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, did what wives do best. She told him he was out of his mind. Jada looked at the script and said, "You better put on that black suit before someone else does." Will still hesitated. Steven Spielberg himself had to call and sweet-talk him into joining. Spielberg's version of sweet talk was probably just saying, "I am Steven Spielberg." That was enough. Suddenly, Will was all in. He even admitted later that if Spielberg had not called, he probably would have missed his career's stylish alien squashing role of a world where someone else wore those shades and made wisecracks to a talking dog. Danny DeVito was reportedly on someone's dream list. That alone should make you thankful. Jada stepped in. Will Smith almost said no, but thankfully the universe and his wife said otherwise. Imagine what Men in Black would have looked like without Will Smith as Agent J. Number 18. It was based on a dark comic book. Long before Will Smith put on his Ray-Bans, Men in Black was not a comedy. It was a comic book. And not the fun kind with capes and cheesy catchphrases. This one was dark. The original Men in Black comic series came out in the early 1990s, published by a tiny outfit called Aircell Comics, which eventually got absorbed into Malibu Comics. These guys didn't just chase aliens, they went after demons, vampires, time travelers, and anything that made you lose sleep. The agents were not your charming, wisecracking defenders of Earth. They were ruthless. Think less buddy cop and more cold-blooded enforcers with questionable morals. They did not just erase memories. Sometimes they erased people, entire people, with no paperwork. Barry Sonnenfeld and Steven Spielberg read this and said, "Cool idea, but maybe let's not traumatize everyone." So they stripped it down, cleaned it up, added humor, threw Frank the Pug, and boom, a blockbuster was born. Still, if you squint, you can see bits of that darker tone hiding under the surface. Tommy Lee Jones's character still has that silent, dead-inside vibe. The bug is still terrifying, and let's be honest, if the original comic version of Agent K had shown up on screen, the movie would have been rated low. Number 17. Makeup took 6 hours per alien. You thought your morning routine was rough? Try being an alien in Men in Black. The average alien in the film took between 5 and 6 hours to get the camera ready. That is 100% true. Each actor had to sit in a chair while a small army of makeup artists glued, painted, and poked them until they looked like something out of Area 51's wildest dreams. 6 hours for maybe 4 seconds of screen time. That is Hollywood math at its finest. The head of makeup, Rick Baker, had a monster job. He designed dozens of unique creatures, each weirder than the last. One alien had blinking tentacles, another looked like it lost a fight with a blender, and some poor guy had to wear animatronic eyeballs that followed people around the set. These effects were all practical, not CGI. The actors couldn't scratch, sneeze, or sweat for half the day. One guy almost passed out because his latex suit didn't have air holes. During lunch breaks, aliens would gather outside, drinking smoothies through bendy straws, trying not to melt. The makeup team deserved their own Oscars. Without them, Men in Black would have been men in slightly odd-looking humans. Next, number 16, Tommy Lee Jones hated the cockroach. Generally, Tommy Lee Jones is known for playing grumpy and being that stone-faced man who shows zero emotion. Do you remember how Tommy behaved towards the aliens? That wasn't acting, though, particularly regarding Edgar the Bug, the cockroach villain from outer space, whom Tommy Lee Jones detested with a fervor typically reserved for sluggish Wi-Fi. Vincent D'Onofrio's Edgar the Bug was part animatronic, part makeup, and 100% nightmare fuel. The Bug's final form was a massive puppet filled with goo, legs, and creepy eyes. Every time the thing appeared on set, Tommy flinched. He told the crew, "I act with humans, not oversized insects." He meant it. In the big final battle scene where Agent K gets swallowed by the Bug, Tommy reportedly needed a moment. Like a deep meditative, why did I sign up for this moment? The goo was slimy, its movements gross, and its smell questionable. Tommy powered through, but he looked like a man reconsidering his life choices with every take. After filming wrapped, someone joked that he should take the puppet home. He said he'd torch it if it came within 3 feet of his car. Tommy Lee Jones may be fearless in movies, but give him a roach the size of a couch, and he is one scream away from retirement. Number 15. Clint Eastwood was considered for Agent K. Before Tommy Lee Jones became the grumpy alien hunting cowboy of the century, the studio had another squinting gunslinger in mind. Clint Eastwood. Yes, Dirty Harry almost traded his .44 Magnum for a neuralizer. Director Barry Sonnenfeld confirmed that producers thought Clint would bring serious get-off-my-planet vibes. Imagine him mumbling, "Go ahead, make my galaxy," while vaporizing a worm. How well did he say that in your minds? The only problem? Clint took one look at the script and passed. Maybe it was the talking pug. Perhaps it was the exploding bug guts. Or maybe he figured retirement sounded easier than wrestling a space squid in a tuxedo. Clint was in his late 60s and more interested in directing than chasing aliens through sewage tunnels. Still, it is fun to picture him scowling through the final scene while telling Will Smith to keep the change. In the end, Tommy Lee Jones stepped in with that straight-faced glare that said, "I will punch a roach." He nailed the deadpan delivery, matched Will Smith's energy like an annoyed stepdad, and made Agent K a legend. Clint Eastwood might have been too cool for Bug Juice, but we are glad he said no. We needed more sarcasm and less squinting. Next, number 14, David Schwimmer was offered Agent J. Yes, Ross from Friends could have been chasing intergalactic cockroaches instead of yelling about sandwiches and dinosaurs. David Schwimmer, the paleontologist with a tragic love life, was offered Agent J's rôle. Will Smith stepped in with his patented swagger, but Schwimmer said no. He was busy directing a small independent film and probably thought chasing aliens would ruin his indie street cred. Plus, wearing sunglasses at night while zapping people's memories may have been a bit much for someone who had just spent a decade living next door to Joey. Now imagine for a second. Would Agent J have spent his time interrogating space worms or asking them if they were on a break? Would he have shouted, "My sandwich," whenever an alien stole his lunch? The movie would have had more emotional breakdowns and fewer explosions. Thankfully, Will Smith came in, moonwalked through the audition, and made the role his own. He brought the attitude, the charm, and just the right amount of cool that Schwimmer's Agent J would never have pulled off without tripping over his shoelaces. Next, number 13, Danny DeVito was considered for J. Now this sounds very weird, doesn't it? Yes, the same Danny DeVito who once crawled naked out of a couch in Philadelphia was once eyed for Agent J. Picture it. A 4-foot-nothing agent in black, sunglasses bigger than his head, sprinting after aliens while yelling insults in a New Jersey accent. The idea was real, people. It was floating around during early casting discussions. Danny DeVito as Agent J was not some internet fever dream. According to director Barry Sonnenfeld, the studio tossed his name out like confetti at a UFO parade. They wanted a quirky buddy comedy dynamic, and nothing says odd couple like DeVito trying to drive a spaceship while seated on booster pillows. Now let's imagine Will Smith's lines delivered by Danny. "You know the difference between you and me? I make this suit look frumpy." Or DeVito trying to flirt with the alien coroner. That scene would have ended with an angry tentacle stuffing him into a locker. In the end, DeVito did not land the part. Perhaps the alien weapons were too tall. Maybe the studio realized that even interstellar criminals would stop and laugh. Instead, they went with Will Smith, who brought cool confidence and legs long enough to run from a spaceship. No offense, Danny, but we needed fewer penguins and more princes. Next, number 12, the original ending was scrapped. Believe it or not, the original ending of Men in Black was supposed to involve a giant philosophical alien with massive lips and a serious speech. Yes, instead of an explosive bug fight and one giant memory wipe, we almost got an existential monologue from a floating head that looked like a cosmic Mr. Potato Head. Director Barry Sonnenfeld has openly admitted the original climax was a dud. It involved a species called the Arquillians, who would talk Agent J to sleep with galaxy-saving wisdom. The audience did not test well with space therapy, so they tossed that idea into a wormhole. Then the cockroach, whoa, not just an ordinary bathroom intruder, but a skyscraper-sized wearing Edgar like a skin suit. The final battle became a slapstick showdown of splattered guts, acrobatic alien dodges, and one big boom. Suddenly, audiences were cheering instead of checking their watches. The change saved the movie. No one wanted to hear a cosmic TED Talk. They wanted slime, lasers, and one hero firing a gun the size of a trumpet into a giant bug's backside. Sometimes, saving the galaxy does not involve long speeches. It consists of blowing up a cockroach from space. Next, number 11, the bug walk was inspired by a toddler. You might think the terrifying alien roach that wore Edgar's skin walked like a drunken crab because of science fiction genius. Nope, that creepy hunched-over shuffle was inspired by a toddler. Yes, a tiny, wobbly, possibly juice-stained child. Actor Vincent D'Onofrio, who played the bug in a human suit, had the brilliant idea to study his niece toddling around the house. She moved like her joints were made of cooked spaghetti, which became Edgar the Bug's blueprint. Adding a few groans, some spine crunches, and way too much knee cracking, and boom, alien movement achieved. D'Onofrio even wrapped ace bandages around his knees to restrict motion and mimic the weird joint movements. Imagine doing that in summer heat while wearing 30 pounds of prosthetics and yelling about sugar water. The man deserves a trophy shaped like a roach. The toddler's contribution might be one of the movie history's angriest cases of uncredited movement coaching. She did not get screen time, but her wonky walk lives forever in a villain who looks like a thrift store mannequin come to life. So next time you see a kid waddle into a wall, remember, that energy once saved a movie from boring alien walks. Next, number 10, the worm guys were added late.
How you doing, fellas?
Oh, shit. Okay.
Can you remember those skinny, caffeine-chugging worm guys? Did you know that they rarely made it into the movie? They were late to the party, like that friend who shows up after dessert and still asks for a plate. To be honest, director Barry originally had no intention of including them. But then the test screenings happened, and the audience wanted more laughs, chaos, and worms with cigarettes. The worms were added in during reshoots. Yes, someone had to build worm puppets on a tight deadline and give them lines like they were auditioning for a space version of Friends. How about their voices? Did you know that the film's sound crew provided it? That is right, the professional actors did not voice them. Some sound guys who probably thought they were ordering lunch did and ended up becoming alien legends. The worm guys became a breakout hit. They were so popular that they appeared in every Men in Black sequel and even got merchandise. Imagine explaining to your grandma that your favorite character is a four-armed worm in tight pants who drinks espresso and chain smokes. Moral of the story? Never underestimate the power of a coffee-fueled alien worm to steal the scene. They came late, but they wormed their way right into cinematic history. Next, number 9, the pug was a diva. Of course, you recall Frank the Pug's cute face, grumpy attitude, and massive ego. That dog was not just a supporting actor, he was a complete blown diva with fur. Played by an authentic pug named Mushu, Frank was so popular that he became the furry face of the franchise. But behind the scenes, Mushu demanded more takes than Will Smith and had more handlers than Tommy Lee Jones. The cast and crew quickly learned that working with Mushu meant working around Mushu. He only followed commands when he felt like it. He would randomly bark, yawn, or fall asleep during scenes. And you had to bribe him with treats like he was some hairy little movie star with his trailer, which he did have. Mushu was trained to move his mouth in sync with the dialogue using peanut butter and a lot of patience. Every scene he was in took triple the time to shoot, but nobody complained because somehow he delivered gold. His chemistry with the cast was so good that you would think he had an agent. He eventually returned for the sequel with an even bigger role and, allegedly, even more attitude. Mushu was not just a dog, but a scene-stealing beast in a fur coat. Next. Number 8. Tommy Lee Jones rewrote his lines. Tommy Lee Jones is not just a guy with a permanent squint and a love for blowing up aliens. He is also a man with opinions. And on the set of Men in Black, those opinions came with a pen. Interestingly, Tommy rewrote several of his lines. Not because they were bad, but because he wanted them to sound more like something Agent K would say. Now imagine the writer trying to argue with him. It is Tommy Lee Jones. He has the voice of a disappointed principal and the stare of a man who knows where the bodies are buried. You just nod, hand over the script, and walk away with, "You're buried in shame." Some of the best deadpan moments in the movie came straight from Tommy's tweaks. He knew precisely how dry Agent K's humor should be. He also cut out anything that sounded too dramatic or too fluffy. If it was gone, if it was not sharp, short, and slightly sarcastic, the result? A performance so dry it could make a desert jealous. He made grumpiness look like a superpower and sarcasm feel like justice. So next time you laugh at one of K's one-liners, thank the man. Next, number 7. Will Smith kept forgetting his line because of Tommy. Will Smith might be the charm king, but even the Fresh Prince got tongue-tied. And the reason? Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy was so intense and serious on set that Will would forget his lines in the middle of scenes. Imagine trying to crack a joke while a stone-faced cowboy is staring at you like you insulted his horse. That must have been hard for Big Willie. Will admitted in interviews that Tommy's deadpan delivery threw him off. It was like acting opposite a brick wall that occasionally growled. One second you are supposed to be cool and witty, and the next you stammer like you just met your math teacher in space. It reached the point where takes had to be redone because Will kept laughing or blanking. Tommy would just sigh, fold his arms, and wait, which probably made it worse. Who forgets their lines before a grumpy Oscar winner with a neuralizer in his pocket? Eventually, Will got the hang of it. He learned to treat Tommy's icy glare like a challenge. And let's be honest, that awkward chemistry made the movie better. Their back and forth felt real. It was like a buddy cop duo forced to ride shotgun across the galaxy with zero patience. Number 6. The neuralizer was inspired by a flashbulb. It might interest and amaze you to know that the iconic memory wiping device with the shiny red light was not some futuristic invention cooked up in a lab, but was inspired by an ordinary flashbulb. You know, those old-school camera flashes that made everyone blink like they were staring into the sun. Director Barry Sonnenfeld thought, what if that same blinding light could erase your entire afternoon? The neuralizer's design was simple, sleek, and fake, but the idea worked so well that everyone wanted one. Just imagine using it on your boss after a bad meeting or on yourself after binge-watching an embarrassing reality show. The sound design team gave it that satisfying whirring noise that made it feel legit.
Thank you, Agent K. Ladies and gentlemen, if you will, look right here.
Add a glowing tip, dramatic flicks, and boom, instant brain wipe. The actors even had to practice holding it properly so it looked cool. Will Smith mastered the flip, and Tommy Lee Jones aimed and clicked like he was resetting a toaster. The neuralizer became one of the most recognizable movie props in sci-fi history. It is part gadget, part device, and part tool for anyone who has ever said something awkward at a party. Too bad it does not exist. Or maybe, wait, what were we talking about again? Next. Number 5, the language of the aliens was real. Well, sort of. The aliens in Men in Black were not just making random noises. Some of those weird sounds were based on real languages and speech patterns. The sound team got creative. They blended clips of Eastern European dialects, animal calls, and even sped up German to create a galactic tongue that sounded like it had grammar. A turkey gobble inspired one alien voice played backward. Another was mashed with the sound of a blender and someone sneezing into a harmonica. If you think that is weird, one background alien says, "I like pudding," if you slow it down. Who knew aliens were dessert fans? The cast had to rehearse talking to these intergalactic mumblers without laughing to ensure authenticity. This was easier said than done. Imagine trying to keep a straight face while a slug-faced alien mumbles something like a blender choking on marbles. The best part? Linguists were hired to check if the alien gibberish accidentally insulted any real cultures. Because the last thing you want is to offend a Klingon. So yes, those aliens were speaking. We just needed a translator fluent in blender babble and space gobble. Next. Number 4. Steven Spielberg was heavily involved. When Steven Spielberg gets involved, you know things will get serious, or seriously weird. Spielberg did not just lend his name to Men in Black. He was the executive producer, the story consultant, the alien cheerleader, and probably the guy who brought snacks to set. The movie had its fingerprints minus the actual aliens because those were sticky. He was the one who convinced the studio to cast Will Smith. At first, the studio wanted a white guy. Spielberg said, "Nope, get me the Fresh Prince." And boom, sci-fi history was made. Spielberg also pushed for more humor and less gloom. The original comic was a dark, brooding tale. Spielberg wanted something lighter, something kids could watch without crying over the popcorn. Therefore, he contributed to the tone that we got, which was a buddy comedy featuring alien cockroaches and exploding heads. Rumor has it that he even suggested changes to the alien design, saying, "Make them weird but lovable." Classic Spielberg. He is like the friendly uncle of sci-fi. Always ensure the explosions are fun and the monsters have a good personality. So if you laughed during Men in Black, you probably have Spielberg to thank for that giggle. Number 3. The bug scene was real. Well, not the giant cockroach. That was fake unless someone has not cleaned their garage in 20 years. But the scene where the bug explodes at the end? Some of the grossness was completely real. Yes, the goo that covered Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones was a glorious mix of oatmeal, slime, syrup, and who knows what else. It looked like an alien threw up a pancake breakfast. The special effects team went all in. They built a giant animatronic bug that stood over 9 feet tall. It had moving legs, a twitchy head, and eyes that blinked like it was annoyed with Earth. When it got blown to pieces, that mess was not CGI. It was gallons of goo blasted at the actors with pressure cannons. Tommy Lee Jones was struck by the alien goop that he almost left the set early. Will Smith, being Will Smith, just laughed and said it smelled like sour salad. That gross-out finale made audiences cheer and squirm at the same time. It was slimy, messy, and unforgettable. And the cleanup? Let us just say it took longer than shooting the entire bug scene. Alien bug guts are not exactly easy to mop up. Next. Number 2. Aliens were designed to look familiar. Have you ever looked at an alien in Men in Black and thought, "Wait, I have seen that guy at the DMV"? That was no accident. The design team wanted the aliens to feel familiar but freaky. They blended human features with exaggerated traits. One, a grumpy uncle, inspired one alien, another looked like a melted librarian. It was art meets awkward family reunion. The makeup crew used photos of celebrities, politicians, and even teachers to create an oddly real alien, a creepy mail-sorting alien, modeled after a guy who worked in the studio's mailroom. True story. One designer even said they aimed for recognizable weirdness. You would not be surprised if these aliens were in line ahead of you at the grocery store buying cat food and cough syrup. It gave the movie a subtle message. Maybe the aliens are not all in outer space. They may be just blending in and paying rent like the rest of us. So next time you see someone with extra long fingers and suspicious sunglasses, do not panic. Just smile politely and check for a tail. You might be standing next to someone who failed their space driving test twice. Next. Number 1. The Elvis Presley joke was foreshadowing. Remember when Agent K said, "Elvis is not dead? He just went home"? It got laughs. But some fans believe that line was not just a joke. They think it was a clue. A big, fat, glowing alien clue. A foreshadowing Easter egg hidden in plain sight. Here is the weird part. In the sequels, the idea of celebrities being aliens becomes canon. A whole list of famous people is revealed as undercover space visitors. Agent K may not be joking. Maybe Elvis did beam back to his home planet, which would explain the white jumpsuit and the hip moves. No human could shimmy like that. Director Barry Sonnenfeld admitted the line was meant to be funny, but mysterious. He loved the idea of blending real-life myths with science fiction. And what better myth than Elvis still being alive, living on a beach somewhere, or maybe rocking out on a moon made of peanut butter? It makes you wonder, which other stars are aliens in disguise? Is that why Beyoncé never sweats? Or why Keanu Reeves still looks the same after 30 years? So who do you think is secretly an alien? Drop your guesses in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content. Before you go, click on the video displayed on your screen.